Now joined by the chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, Texas Congressman Mike McCaul. Congressman, thanks for taking the time and joining us this morning. As always, we sure appreciate your time. You recently said in the Washington Times that you believe that the administration's effort to counter this violent extremism, especially on social media, lacks sufficient focus and structure. Only 4 people in the DHS, 4, are focused on countering the ISIS messages in social media?
Yeah. I mean, we've been investigating this, with the Boston incident, the Garland incident. And, Matt, I'm afraid we're going to see more and more of these kind of episodes. This is kind of what ISIS is doing over the Internet, is activating people in the United States with Twitter accounts and activating them to kill people. Whether it's military installations or police officers or whatever. And there are only 4 people assigned to this task at the Department of Homeland Security. And yet, I got PolitiFact on this one, so you appreciate that. And yet we have millions of dollars going towards climate change within FEMA. And there's no line item budget for countering this homegrown violent radical Islamist extremism.
What?
That's astounding.
Let me ask you this. So the USA Freedom Act is passed out of the House, and the Senate, of course, passes it out, and it's now going to the president. We're collecting the data of citizens here, American citizens. We seem to have a big old team of people to do that, the NSA, and we're collecting American citizens' data, but we're not countering the voices of ISIS on social media. We only got 4 people on that?
Yeah, we have some people in the FBI, and I'm going to be meeting with them in a few minutes on what they're doing about the threat to stop this. And within Homeland Security, you got 4 people assigned to this. This has to change, and the focus needs to be on stopping these terror attacks inside the United States. And Matt, again, the concern I have is we had to ramp up our security at our military installations just recently because of this online internet threat coming out of Syria and other places in the world that where these recruiters are sending online call to arms, if you will, to take up arms against Americans and kill Americans. And what happened yesterday in Boston is just the trend of what you're going to start to see. I think, I'm afraid, we're going to see more and more of this in the future.
Congressman, hang on. Let me do a quick traffic and weather check. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about Boston, what they wanted to do, behead police officers. Also, Pamela Geller was targeted in this. I'll get your thoughts on that in just a second. And we're back with the chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, Texas Congressman Mike McCaul, joining us here this morning. And Congressman, again, thank you for your time. So
thanks for having me.
You look at the FBI had been watching this one guy for quite a while, and then they had him under 24-hour surveillance. And again, I go back to this USA Freedom Act that we desperately had to have, and everyone is so concerned by it. Was that, was it metadata collection, phone record collection that helped us find this guy, or was it just good old-fashioned police work? Because it seems like good old-fashioned police work to me.
Well, I can't get into some of the details of this, Matt, on open source, but a lot of it was actually online communications that they were able to pick up between these guys in Syria, as I mentioned before, and the subject in Boston. And he also had a guy that he was onlining with who was trying to destroy all the computer records after the fact. But yeah, they're getting ready to behead. The first target, as you mentioned, was Pamela Geller, the Prophet Muhammad cartoon drawing contest leader.
Right.
And they kind of abandoned that and decided they're going to just start cutting heads off of policemen in Boston. And they had a knife. So you've seen the John Jihad in Syria. They had a knife identical to his that they were going to use to cut off the heads. And so, yeah, the FBI did, and Homeland did a great job in this one. Just like Garland, they stopped him. But how many more of these are we going to be able to stop before something happens? It seems like every week, we're rolling somebody up, either trying to go to Syria or someone who's activated online who's getting ready to kill somebody, to kill Americans. We've been very lucky.
Well, what's the solution? We hear TSA is letting through 96% of the red teams that have fake bombs strapped to their back, so that's certainly not stopping anybody. I mean, we only got a couple of minutes. What's the solution?
Where do you start, man? I mean, geez, I got a briefing on that, classified as well, but that is like, really with all the money we spent to screen passengers and 95, 96%.
Well, what do you do
with
then?
Trying to get through, get through.
I mean, do you throw more money at it? I mean, where do you start with this?
It's human error. It's a technology issue. Some people say, why do we even need this stuff? But then you look at the threat environment where they're trying to still blow up airplanes, and I don't want that on my head. And so it's not easy. And what do you do about countering these violent extremism? You got to put more focus and a priority in the administration to, the best thing we could do is cut the head off of the snake, and that's in Syria. And if we could eradicate ISIS in Iraq and Syria and have a strong foreign policy that eliminates this threat at its core, so we don't have to deal with swatting flies over here, but rather drain the swamp over there, seems to me that's a pretty good idea. But this administration is not willing to do that.
Is that boots?
All they do is flounder.
Is that boots on the ground and more airstrikes?
Well, look, we need more. I think of our special forces guys, forward operating bases to take them out. I'd rather use what they call indigenous force, which would be, the Sunnis that are there. And you can go, Peshmerga. You got, the Iraqi National Army. I was in Baghdad recently. And the Iraqi National Army is totally incapable of fighting ISIS. They drop their arms and they run. And so we're relying on the Iranians, of all people, the Shia militias to fight ISIS. And that's a real bad idea, I think, as well. And so, I think we need more of a presence. But, don't take all the options off the table.
No.
And we need to train these guys better. But we need to have a serious strategy. And the rules of engagement for the airstrikes, I mean, they saw these guys coming into Ramadi, but they couldn't hit them because there has to be zero collateral damage before they can fire one rocket at these guys.
Congressman?
That's almost, how do you do that?
No,
right? So
you're right.
So our Air Force, their hands are tied by this president and this administration.
Congressman, we appreciate your time. I know you got to get to a briefing, and we sure appreciate your time this morning. Look forward to talking with you again. And hopefully the next time we talk, we'll have some more positive things to discuss. Thanks, Congressman, for your time.
I sure hope so. I hope so, Matt. Thanks for having me, as always.
You bet.